All right, we are back here. Time to wrap up the podcast this week. We are diving into the world of pop culture again. Thanks to the Prolonged Sports Period, we're doing some pop culture every week on the podcast to help us fill the airtime here. And joining me today, somebody I've talked to twice before about Curb Your Enthusiasm, and back again this week and next to cover the end of the season, Martino Puccio. Martino, welcome. How are you?
Not bad making use of this situation that we're all in, but Curb is one of those things. I know we don't have sports to get us through tough times, but we do have Curb, and it's been deep for the process.
Yes, and I also want to thank you for being the first to step up in the pop culture sphere. You're doing these 2 weeks, and then we'll having our other pop culture people coming through. Sandra Rose will be popping through. John Stanko's be popping through. Some other guests who don't usually do pop culture will be coming through, but a lot of interesting stuff going on with the non-sports side of the podcast.
Yeah, that's fun. Stanko's always great for movies and everything else, pretty much pop culture-wise, on top of Boston sports, too. And shout out to him, by the way, for making the Rick Pitino to Iona graphic. So it was great work.
Yeah, I talked to Kevin Walsh a little bit ago about the Rick Pitino stuff. What's your take on it?
I mean, how are you not stunned? I know I do a lot of sports, and we talk about a lot of sports, but college basketball and basketball in general is my first love. So I've been watching the sport forever, and to just, when you go to Iona, or when I first went to Iona, you never really it's like a really good basketball program. I went to dozens of games. I still go to games, still watch the games. And I mean, we worked them too for ESPN3. So it's really just surreal that the program finally gets even more attention outside of the month of March, because this is one of the greatest college coaches of all time. There hasn't been a guy that has this much success at multiple schools before. Maybe the closest is really Calipari at this point, but he never won at 2 national championships at 2 different schools. I mean, it's just amazing. I can't wait to see all the types of prospects and recruits they're going to be getting. Sorry, I'm thinking prospects, because we might see an NBA player roll through the Heinz Center within the next few years. So Rick Pitino to Iona, it's just still surreal. You sent me that tweet with Jay Billis on Get Up, and it's just so weird to see all the national attention, and it's great at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, when this news first came out that he was even a candidate, I mean, my reaction was just pure.
What the hell's going on out here?
Like, I didn't believe it, and then all of a sudden it's happened, and now we're seeing stuff on ESPN, how Seth Greenberg is saying how they want Iona in their national ESPN events. They're gonna try and get his first game on ESPN. It's gonna be pretty wild.
No, yeah, and it's just the beginning, because the great part was they announced earlier, I believe it was in the college basketball season, that they're going to start it to play Fordham again, which obviously we know Fordham, local school. They went to the A10. Basically, you would have thought a few years ago when Fordham's making a leap like that, they would eventually be a school that could afford and get Rick Pitino, but it's really Iona, and I'm just so excited again for all the out of conference games that they're going to be playing, because we know how difficult it is for MAC schools to get at large bids. And there's been pretty good MAC teams that deserve at large bids, but now they get that sort of schedule that's going to be respected outside of the conference. The conference dominance that I expect Iona to have again after I think of an outlier of a year. So once that happens, I could even see at-large bids on top of just getting the automatic bid from the tournament.
Indeed, it'll be fun to keep track of that. Let's get to the Curb, which is why you're here. We talked about the Jet episode of Curb, and we thought that was the best of the season, but I think episode 8, the follow-up, so much better.
Yeah, no, objectively speaking, the follow-up was better for sure. I think I liked the Jets one more because, again, that hit home. But I also love this one because, one, I'm a huge fan of John Hamm, and Mad Men is one of the best TV series that you'll watch, and one that I've seen. And him just shadowing Larry was just too funny, and every situation that they were in, the Gotta Go app with Leon, any they've really nailed Leon this season and putting him in the right spots to make him funny. There hasn't been too much of him, but there's just been enough that you pretty much can recall almost every single scene that he's in. Um, and then Caitlin Olsen as well, appearing in this one as Cheryl's sister. I love Always Sunny in Philadelphia. That's my favorite TV show ever. These two shows, the Curb and Always Sunny, I think are the funniest, in my opinion, of shows that I like. And to see her there again with Larry, because she was on way back when the show first started. It might have been season 2 or 3. I can't really recall. But her being back in this, and just the ramping up again of Larry versus Mocha Joe.
Yeah, that I think we to start with the headline, which is John Hamm, and like he basically spends the episode shadowing Larry because he's playing a sitcom writer in a movie that apparently is a lot like Larry. And I thought they nailed John Hamm. He was hysterical.
Yeah, every single thing, and it's funny if people that do method acting, because that's part of what he was doing, trying to become and like understand the character. If you listen to a lot of like great actors, I know Bradley Cooper is one of them. They do really a lot of thorough research. And some of the people that they're playing, they try to get to know them, even spend time with them, depending on who the person is, if it's based off of a real person. And in this instance, it was in the episode. And he just picks up on the mannerisms so quickly. And it was so hilarious because it kind of reminded me of the Fatwa episode where they all kind of started agreeing with Larry in every single situation that he was in. That's what John Hamm was like. And the end of it with John Hamm was just hysterical at Mocha Joe's with Cheryl. Cheryl knows Larry better than anyone on that show. Like that was Larry to a T, and it was a great ending.
I also loved throughout the episode too when everybody was talking to him. They always called him by his full name. They never called him John. They would say, "Okay, time for you to leave too, John Hamm." They would always go full name.
That's a good point, actually. I love when they got kicked out of the dinner. That whole Richard Lewis situation that he made up about Larry's bleeding rectum. Just oh my god, that was a classic because I had the same reaction. Like you couldn't think of a better excuse to come up with for Larry. And that kind of was something how they go back and forth and get on and kind of play jokes on each other because of the episode that aired yesterday about with Richard Lewis's storyline. It was kind of like Larry got him back. So yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I enjoyed that as well. I also thought it was the co-headliner of that episode was the Gotta Go app, which I think was probably the best Leon storyline this season.
Yeah, that was just like the most ridiculous idea that Larry dated. You forget how much money he has, that he just invests money in that, and they get the app up and running, and Leon is just going to when he spit on the guy's shoe, that couldn't have been funnier. And then demanding a tip afterwards, and it's even funnier because it's just you could lose your job so easily. Like you have no idea, like Leon of all people, because you have no idea who the person is coming to cover your shift. And then just a rotation of Leon to Larry to John Hamm at the TV magazine stand. It was just so priceless.
Yeah, speaking of that whole sequence, which is basically like Larry like wants to like Leon asks Larry to cover at the newsstand, and Larry asks Jeff. Jeff basically says, "I can't. Once the sweatpants are on, I don't go out." How do you feel about that? Do you agree with Jeff?
Ooh, I think it depends on the situation. I do agree with Jeff. Like when you get home, you're in your sweatpants. You don't plan on going out. That's why you put the sweatpants on. Because if you plan on going out again, then you keep your jeans on. Because it's kind of, it's not lazy kind of get up, but it is like you rather wear jeans when you go out because I don't know, you just feel like you're more appropriate and dressed up for whatever situation. Depending on that, if that was my friend asking me, I think I would go out and cover in the sweats. I mean, you're in LA, you're by the book stand, but again, he is his manager. If you're that close with somebody, you're okay with just not covering for them and just letting them figure out the situation on their own.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that was good. I also saw the other plot point with Larry dating Cheryl's sister. You mentioned played by Caitlin Olsen. I thought the storyline started off weird, but it did get pretty funny towards the end.
Yeah, you could kind of see where it was going. I kind of knew what was going to happen between the both of them. I also thought it was ridiculous that he wanted the money for the house years later, which I don't agree with him on it. I think Larry was off on where one of the funniest scenes was when Meryl found out that Larry had sex with her sister, that she was getting mad at him, but Larry it was the same thing as Ted and Cheryl, and then John Hamm agreed, and then Jeff agreed. I was just curious, like, what do you think about that? Do you think it's like the same thing? I think they're both like wrong, but I don't think Larry would have done it if Ted did what he did in the first place. Which I still can't get over. I think it's a ridiculous backstabbing kind of thing. Even if he did about it, like you could have any woman you want, your Ted Danson, and you choose to do that.
I think Larry's more in the wrong here because I get, yes, Ted Danson was a douche for doing that, but at the same time, like you don't go with your ex-wife's sister. I mean, that to me basically, like, if the writers are realistic, that basically torpedoes any chance Larry has realistically ending up with Cheryl on the show.
Yeah, that is true. And you know what? But I think it's just so funny because of Cheryl's reaction, right? Like you could tell she still cares, but she's still like going out with Ted. Larry still cares, even though for like years you would think he didn't care. But at their core, like they're still human beings. As crazy as Larry is, he still has feelings for Cheryl. Who knows? It might put a damper in their relationship. You don't know if they could ever get past it. I'm always still rooting for Larry to get back with Cheryl. That's just strictly something I want to see. I love that storyline. I think they're one of the better TV couples you'll see. And honestly, like I just hate what Ted Danson did. I don't like it, but yeah, that's just me.
Yeah, I know you don't like that, and I feel like that the argument I would make, I think the funniest part of that sequence also was when Cheryl confronts him about it, and he's like, "Who told you I slept with your sister?" And she's like, "My sister."
Yeah, that's a funny one.
Yeah.
Because it really is similar to Caitlin Olsen's character in Always Sunny in Philadelphia. They're very spiteful characters on Always Sunny, and she did a spiteful thing to her sister, and you know what? And they weren't even on speaking terms, I believe, prior to that. So again, it was. I thought it was hilarious, and that whole scene, how it blew up in his face, was just like it came straight from the source.
Yeah, the end of that plot basically is like Cheryl's sister hurts herself on a ski lift. Larry says he's gonna come, but like he gets on the next flight out, but he waits to get the next first class flight out.
Yeah.
And then because of the whole fiasco with the guy to go out, he doesn't make the flight, ends up flying in the next morning, and she dumps him. So where do you side that? Do you think Larry was wrong here for not being on the first flight out?
It made me cringe because you knew the longer he kept delaying the flight, the worse it was going to end up. Because he said he was going to be there, and then, it's kind of understandable if you can't get, like, a decent flight within the first few hours. But he took over 24 hours just to get there, and she's basically all, like, kind of over the whole situation. She's calmed down, and now she's like, oh, like, what was the point of even showing up? And it's just so funny that whole situation really just played out because, I mean, like, it was just the whole relationship was like ridiculous to begin with. So yeah, I mean, it's just funny. It's just funny.
Yeah. Also, great line delivery from LD too when she asks him, it's like, there were no seats on any of the flights. He's like, there were no seats for me.
He's always so blunt and right to the point. It's just the delivery is always what's so great about it.
Yeah, I think this was I think that was an A+ episode of Curb. I mean, John Hamm was the money winner, but everything else sort of fit nicely together that episode.
Yes, and another reason why famous actors should be playing themselves on TV.
Absolutely agree with that. Let's go to last night. Last night I was recording on Monday night, episode number 9, and I will say I think this was definitely a much more uneven episode than the one we just watched.
Yeah, I was texting you about it. I thought this one was kind of all over the place. There was just so many like angles that they were going with. But by far, I gotta say, my favorite scene is when Jeff is about to drop Susie off at the airport. He's just way too ecstatic and excited to get rid of Susie for the weekend and go to Pebble Beach with the guys to go on a golf trip. And it was just, it's just so funny how she just thrives in making Jeff miserable. And then to the point, you're just like, when is Jeff just going to be single already? Because we know Jeff has had extramarital affairs. We want to see single Jeff. I think single Jeff with Larry and Richard Lewis on the town of LA, these are these famous people. I want to see that. I think it'll be hilarious. And then just to see the interactions when Susie and Jeff start to cross paths again, I think it would be amazing because right now it's there to an extent it's getting a little played out with how Susie and Jeff are, because you kind of feel like there's this like budding divorce that's about to happen. Because I think I don't remember what season it was. It would have been last season or the season prior where we found out Susie was also having extramarital affairs. So we find out they've both been doing that to each other. They both like don't really get along. It seems like they're just tolerating each other. I think it's a storyline to watch. I know that I kind of sidetracked a little bit, but that was by far the best part of the episode.
Yeah, that was definitely the funniest bit. I think the other thing that was hilarious, they instead of going right to the cold open, they do the Latte Larry's opening commercial before the main credits start, and I thought that was so funny the way they played that out.
Yeah, and I didn't think Larry would be that involved with the Latte Larry's as he is, because he's really just behind the counter getting people's coffee orders and all that. And the ending of it was hysterical when he just knocked out Mocha Joe's name at the top, and then it just was just like Latte Larry's. Like, Mocha Joe's is irrelevant next door to me.
Yes, the Spice store did open, and funny sign of the times that we had a bit about Purell, and they could not have predicted this would have worked so well, like when the episode was first filmed.
Yeah, no, the Purell part, it was innovative. Latte Larry's. There was no issues with the women going to the bathroom. It was such a ridiculous thing where just no woman had any complaints about it. It just kind of seemed strange to me because there was a lot of people going in and out of the cafe.
Yeah, there were. I mean, we saw the price war throughout the episode. That was great especially the bit when he and Mocha Joe were outside just constantly changing the price on the sign was great.
Oh yeah, when I think they went down to like $1.10 of coffee, and Ted Danson was just who joined up forces with Mocha Joe was just like, what the hell, man, we can't be doing this. and again, it's just one of those money flexes of Larry David that it doesn't matter if he sells a coffee cup for $1.10. He doesn't care if he loses any money. He has so much money to begin with, and it shows in the spice store.
Yeah, it is definitely a spice store. The other thing that surprised me did not tie in this, as I thought was coming, was like, when they made a big deal at the no defecating sign, I thought when you had either the waitress with the diarrhea or LD and Leon with the licorice, I thought that would be an issue where somebody has to defecate in the restaurant. But I'm surprised they did not go that way.
Yeah, no, again, that's another good point. It just kind of seemed like they didn't take advantage of some situations. Again, the licorice part was really odd because Larry was eating that licorice multiple times before, but I guess if you ate enough of the licorice that you would have those diarrhea issues. It was that scene with Mocha Joe at Larry's house with the both of them at the same time after they ate all the licorice. It was again another classic scene.
Yeah, speaking of the licorice, are you a big licorice guy?
I am not a big licorice guy, because licorice is a little different than like Twizzlers. You know what I mean? Like licorice has a kind of specific taste to it. Black licorice is disgusting. I had it once. I do like the red Twizzlers that you could peel the strings off of. Those are like the only licorice type of thing that I eat, but I wouldn't eat what Larry was eating.
Yeah, I mean, I've never had licorice like that, and to me, that's just not appealing.
No, it's got a really bitter taste to it, especially black licorice. I don't know. I don't know. It's just gross. But I just found it was hilarious that Larry just literally would go to the dealership just to get some of that licorice.
Yeah, he goes to the dealership several times. Like, he ends up buying this ridiculous sports car in there, and I gotta say, this subplot of Larry's car was great.
Yeah. Of course, when he gets in the accident with what's her face, the
Diane.
waitress,
Diane.
Diane. Yes, sorry, I drew a blank on the name. Yeah, Diane. I thought that was great too. I think they overdid the honking and the phone with the beep tossed into the side. You got beep scared. I don't know. It just kind of seemed weird and something that Larry wouldn't be on the side of. I feel like Larry would get angry at the people who were on their phone and wouldn't drive. I don't know. It was just. I thought the funniest part about that is that after she hit him, he said, "Well, it's actually kind of my car," and it was, he was kind of trying to take back what he gave to her only like not even that long ago, not even an hour.
Yeah, it is a weird situation there. And have you ever had beep panic?
No, I have not had deep panic because I'm just one of those paranoid people that won't like if I can't be on my phone in a certain place, like I just won't be on my phone.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of like disciplined like that because I always have in the back of my head like the implications, but like because there's so many accidents that happen with a phone in the car, so I just wouldn't have it out unless it was like an emergency.
Yeah, I thought the beat panic stuff and was definitely like very very cartoonish, which I feel like is not usually a recipe for success on Curbed.
Yeah, no, and especially in Latte Larry, that was just kind of lazy writing. That was some of the laziest stuff since the episode when they went away,
Yeah.
with the private jet. It bordered that for kind of one of the more poor episodes of the season.
Yeah, let's get to the waitress we're married to, waitress Diane, and obviously like they like the first time they see her, like she brings their food, she tells them that she has diarrhea, so no, of course nobody wants to eat the food she brings out to them. And then the next time they see her, like they're in a room, the restaurant has no air conditioning, and like this is again like the cartoonish stuff with like the most ridiculous slow-mo drop of sweat falling off her nose into Larry's soup. I mean, like I laugh because of how absurd the whole thing was with the slow mo and like the horrified faces from like Jeff and Richard and Freddie Funkhauser, but like I thought that game like way too cartoonish or curved.
No, yeah, again, it just seemed like it was a forced scene, and she was just sweating way more profusely than any other person that was in. Like you couldn't see anyone else like sweating, but she's just like a whole nother level of it. And I don't know. Again, it was like, yeah, it's just kind of cartoonish. Like she's hovering over the soup for what? Like a good. It felt like 10 minutes. She's just there, like asking him 20 million questions as they wait for that little drop of sweat on the end of her nose to just fall into the soup. So they leave. I don't know. It was just kind of. I agree with you. It just. I just thought it's cartoonish. It's lazy. I don't know. A show can't be perfect. I'll say that.
I will also throw this out there. She is by far the most despicable character of this season, Diane the waitress.
I mean, she's just like I can't believe she just yeah no she is absurd. It's like kind of like where does Larry find these people and do that? Is he like does he attract these people, these absurd human beings that are just so wrong in almost any possible situation? Like,
yeah. I mean,
I would demand a refund if a waitress ever said she had diarrhea at like dinner.
Yeah, I mean, let's set this up here for a minute because I want to talk about this. I do think she's like the worst character we have this season because literally, she tells her customer she has diarrhea, she sweats in someone's soup, gets fired. Larry takes pity on her, picks her up, gives her a ride home, gives her a car, she wrecks his car, he lets her keep it, and gives her a job no less. Then she doesn't show up for the job and sells the car to go on a trip to Europe. I mean, come on.
No, yeah, no, exactly. And it was just, she is probably the character that angered me the most, probably since the ice cream sample lady. I don't know if you remember her.
Yes.
She kept trying samples and samples of ice cream. It's just like, all right, lady, you're abusing your ice cream powers.
Your sample privileges.
Sample powers.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like this is a woman that you give her an inch, she takes a mile kind of person. And she was just infuriating and the audacity that Larry not only gave her the call, it's like, how do you not just hate a person like that? It's such society would just be better off if he just went to some island by herself and didn't bother anyone.
Yeah, because I mean, think about it. It's kind of similar I feel they kind of were trying to go with a similar tone with the guy at the bathroom attendant a couple of weeks ago, where they were like, "Oh, Larry takes pity on these people who like have these low end jobs," but like this woman gave no like indication of why that Larry should have been helping her. At least the bathroom attendant guy, Larry, got him fired. This one, like, she got herself fired.
She did, and then she doubled down on the diarrhea thing. She's like, "Oh, I waited your guys' tables all the time. What was the big deal? I thought you guys would be understanding." And he's right. He's understanding. No matter who you are, it doesn't. And like in the sweat in the soup, and she's like, "Oh, it's not a big deal." She would be polite. It would be polite. Like, would you? Come on, someone sweats in your soup that they made it for you, or any type of food. You're not going to eat it. It doesn't matter who it is. And my mom told me that. Like, I'll tell her to get it the hell out of my face because that's just absolutely disgusting to have. Like, it's just germ, especially with everything going on too. Like, how do you not just sit there and say you don't want anything like that because it's gross.
Yeah, I think she is the LVP of season 10 to date.
Yes, she takes it.
Yeah, let's talk about some other like odds and ends in this episode. The Richard Lewis's play. What'd you think about that?
I remember reading Flowers for Algernon back in middle school, I think. Always in Philadelphia is actually a show they had an episode where they kind of made fun of it because one of the characters' names is Charlie in it, and Charlie is the main character in Flowers for Algernon. Yeah, I mean, it was just weird. I thought it was really, like, it was just, like, funny to try and see Richard Lewis serious, but I feel bad because he looks so sickly in general. You can't kind of tell when he's being serious and when he's not, or he's just flat out a horrible actor. Like, when Larry requested him to do a part of his character at dinner or lunch, wherever he was, with Freddie Funkhouse, it was just so funny when his eyes popped up like that and he started doing because it was so terrible, and he knew Larry didn't care. He just started laughing at him.
Yeah, I will say also, Richard Lewis definitely had his diarrhea fate coming to him because he's been like an awful friend to Larry most of the season.
Yeah, Richard is kind of perplexing at times. He kind of doesn't add that much for me besides just arguing with Larry. Just his character, it's no disrespect to Richard Lewis. He's really just a comedy legend and respected in so many circles. But I don't know. It's just I feel bad because he can only do so much these days with his character. He doesn't have the same energy that he had in the earlier seasons.
Yeah, I also don't understand how the writing of this show makes it that like he at his age and his looks is pulling Isla Fisher and Sasha Alexander as girlfriends in this show.
No, exactly. I think it just kind of reminds you of just those Adam Sandler women, like just because they could have pretty and good looking women like that, they do it. It doesn't have to actually like make sense. Like Richard Lewis isn't even like a big name comedian like that anymore. Like he gets gigs every now and then. He's doing this stuff like Flowers for Algernon, and he's dating CEOs and stuff. I don't know where Richard Lewis is going to meet these CEOs and just like I don't get it either. It's just again, it's perplexing.
Although, to be fair, Curb seems like it's in an alternate universe where Vince Vaughn doesn't exist. And apparently, like, remember last week when John Hamm was with Larry, he's like, Richard Lewis, like, oh, big fans. Apparently, in that universe, Richard Lewis is a much bigger deal than he is in ours.
I don't know. It was just, it's a generational thing with Richard Lewis because you also, like, hear from so many people, like, kind of like, if you like read the history or just like know about some of the documentaries I've seen on like with Gary Shandling and Robin Williams, they're kind of just names that always pop up. And Richard Lewis is one of them, but I don't know. It's just kind of, this episode just really put me off a little bit to the show.
Yeah, he's kind of like, I'm always been down Richard Lewis. I feel like he's sort of like, if you take Diane the waitress off, I think he's been like the least impactful character this entire season.
He really has for some of the regular characters. He really, to me, hasn't done much. I like it more where it's more of a shallow Richard, but now we're just like, I don't know. It's just strange. There's something about it that he didn't really add that much to the episode, and the whole. It wasn't a big part of the episode, but the episode ends with him at the play. I don't know. I didn't like it.
Yeah, obviously the last point I want to touch on this episode is the whole Mocha Joe side of it, where Mocha Joe basically is getting run out of business by Larry, and he deciding on this revenge because Ted Danson gives him movie screeners, and he realizes, Oh, basically pirates. He goes to Larry's house, steals the Larry David screeners, and gets him arrested for pirating the movies.
Yeah, it's the laziest thing I could have ever imagined, and it wasn't. Again, it was just like brushed off by Larry. Another money flex, like 250 grand in a fine. He just paid it off. He's like, "Oh, I'm lucky I'm not in jail." Like, wouldn't you go back and forth knowing Larry David? Wouldn't Larry David dispute it and try and fight it in court or something to prove that he didn't, in fact, spread all these screening movies out to the general public to view? It just, to me, it just didn't like go along with who Larry David is, and it just kind of was like Mocha Joe all of a sudden has a genius idea like that to just go to Larry's house and do that. I don't know. To me, it was just like lazy, and honestly, I thought it was just actually the worst part of the episode for me.
Yeah, I agree. I was happy to see Mocha Jane again though. She was great in her one spot in the episode.
Yeah, no, she she was great in that spot. I don't know. I think the Ted Danson with Mocha Joe dynamic was actually pretty good as well. I thought they were actually working well together because they both have like a hatred for Larry, but the whole coffee was like Larry's coffee is just too good. I think what did Ted say towards the end of the episode? Oh, you want a cup of coffee? And Ted was like, from here? Nah.
Yeah. I also like that Ted was starting to pick up on all things that Larry pointed out were wrong with Mocha Joe's shop, like the wobbly tables and the scones and all that good stuff.
Yeah, no, I know. That's true. That was a very underrated part because still Mocha Joe. Like you would think at that point, like Ted Danson, who's literally on Mocha Joe's side, investing in the place, you would think like, okay, maybe he did have a point, but I guess if Mocha Joe does admit that, then he admits defeat to Larry David, and Larry was right the whole time.
Yeah, that's true, and we are hitting the finale next week, and everything's gonna wrap up. The finale is I think it's gonna be an hour long. It sounds like, or at least 45 minutes. It's called the Spice Store, so it was like our big Spice Store storyline's finally coming to a head.
Yeah, and again, that was one of the ones that you called. I think after the first episode or second episode, I don't remember. Yeah, I mean, look, I kind of hope they just address the Marty Funkhauser thing. He said in one of the interviews with Michael Kay that they do address the Marty Funkhauser part, but at this point, you didn't see anything about Marty. They just referenced him once. If that's the addressing of Bob Einstein and Marty Funkhauser, I'm going to be really disappointed because he was such a major character and great part of the show. And I understand it might be tough for Larry and them, so I could understand if it's too painful for them to kind of, write him off in a more, I don't know, respectable way, kind of a more of a tribute to him. But I don't know. I just hope it just kind of gets something, and Freddie Funkhauser is a thing of the past as well.
Yeah, I feel like they were in a tough spot with the Bob Einstein thing. Remember, they filmed this much earlier before he really got sick. So I think that this might be we're season 11 kind of plot point, because I'm assuming we're getting a season 11 because LD seems like he just wants to keep doing this as long as he's inspired by creative ideas.
Yeah, no, who knows when we'll see season 11. Hopefully we do get it because, look, it's clear as day. Like, even if we didn't enjoy episode 9 as much or the episode when they go away to Mexico, the season as a whole, that's a lot more good episodes than there were poor ones, right? So that means they're still fresh. They still have good ideas. And it's all funny, and the mind of Larry David, has been making some of the funniest TV episodes since Seinfeld was 1989. So from 1989 all the way to 2020 now, it's just been hilarity. Hilarity has just been ensuing in almost every single episode he writes. So I hope there's more.
My guess is fall 2022 is when we're talking the next Curb season.
Yeah, I mean, the way they've been going, it's hard to see it just coming out next year, right? So I could see something like that. Hopefully sooner rather than later, because Larry and a lot of the crew is up there in age. They're not spring chicken, It can only last so much longer. So I hope if we do get more, it's more of this prime stuff now, and not anything that would kind of damage its legacy.
Yeah, and this finale is also the 100th episode of Curb, so I hope they have some big stops pulled out for this.
Oh, I bet they do. I think we're going to see some characters we might have not seen in recent seasons, so I'm hopeful for it. Maybe maybe Michael J. Fox would be nice to see if that would be possible.
Yeah, maybe Wanda Sykes would be a good blast in the past.
She's one of the best ever in that show, and it's kind of disappointing she hasn't been in there for a while. I agree with you. That's a good show.
Yeah, I'd love to see her just show up and get a cup of coffee at Latte Larry's.
Oh yeah, or yes, absolutely. Or her going to the women's bathroom and just call out Larry for it for not consulting women about the situation.
Yeah, and obviously we all know the season's not going to end with him having a successful Spite store. So what do you think is going to go wrong for the Spite store?
There's just going to be something involved with the store getting torn down and Mocha Joe getting both sides, and he just gets a bigger Mocha Joe's and he gets a deal with the coffee bean guy. And I'm not sure how it's going to blow up in Larry's face, but I would assume he would just have to do something with the bathroom.
I think you're dead on there. I think it's either something with the women's bathroom or there's a accident in the men's bathroom with his incredibly complex urinals.
Or if someone has like an emergency where they have to go defecate in one of the bathrooms and someone does, it maybe something like that. There's got to be something with the bathroom because you can't have such a ridiculous idea in the women's bathroom and then just fail to address it for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I definitely think the bathroom is going to be the downfall of him. And I'm curious if at some point I know they kind of killed Me Too in episode 4 or 5, but I want him to come back in the finale.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, that would be funny to see, but I'm not too sure. I kind of feel like that storyline got put to bed, which was again kind of one of the lazier things in my opinion. But look, I think it's going to be a great finale. We'll see what happens. I think it can go a lot of different ways, considering the flexibility within the show. I don't know. I think again there was that he had that little spite. Ted Danson to Larry saying that he was going back up with Cheryl. So it looks like they kind of rekindled things. So I think that might come into play as well.
Yeah, indeed. We'll be back next week to break down the Curbed finale. Martino, thanks for hopping on this week to get us through the last 2 episodes of Curbed. So we're in a bold new world here. So we'll see how long we are without sports, but pop culture will still keep coming on the podcast.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, and thanks for having me on as always.
Not a problem. Before I let you go, how people follow you on Twitter and keep up with some of the stuff you're up to?
Well, unfortunately, I can't be doing my show as of late. As of now, I'm going in on Wednesday to work. I don't know how true it is. You can catch me on NBA's Twitch channel, some fantasy basketball, just discussing all basketball topics. And then you can just follow my Twitter at Martino Puccio. Just tweeting out whatever happens with NFL free agency these days. As the Jets just did sign somebody, as we were discussing.
Yeah, they signed George Fant while we were on the line for offensive tackle, a 3-year, $30 million deal, 17 guaranteed.
Look, they got a body in there. I see a lot of people aren't really fans of it and think Kelvin Beachum is enough better player than that. So I don't know. I mean, you better hope it's not a sign of things to come, and you better hope that Fant steps it up because he can't just not help Sam Darnold.
Well, they needed bodies, so he's going to play somewhere on that line.
Yeah, they got no choice at this point. I think you're correct on that.
All right. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
All right. Take care, Mike.